doing, everyone?
Let's get going.
So good to see all these beautiful faces in attendance. As you can see, we're causing as much consternation as we can until we get the outcome that we want. But let me just say, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. It's amazing to see so many people rallying outside of Governor Cuomo's office today. My name is Corey Bates, and next to me I have Jawanza. And we're from Vocal, New York, and from the Three-Quarter House Senate Organizing Project. And we're so proud to be standing with such a diverse crowd of people who are committed to ending homelessness in our state. This group represents the homeless community, faith leaders, advocates fighting for criminal justice reform, leaders fighting for a fair economy, and much, much more. Does anyone know how many homeless people we have in New York State? Can you repeat that? Because I can't goddamn hear you. Now let's take a moment and let that sink in. Just reflect on that. 88,000 people are living in shelters across the state, and that's the ones that's accounted for.
Yeah.
That ain't right. Now, just to let you know, I am a part of the 88K. For the last 5 years, I've been struggling to find permanent housing. I've been living in a hotel in East New York for nearly 2 years. Now, there are 88,000 of us in this situation. That's a moral and political failure that our state should be ashamed of. That ain't right. But we know homelessness isn't the only crisis impacting our communities.
All right.
Our education system is woefully underfunded. Our criminal justice system is broken and targets communities of color. Basic infrastructure is lacking in our poor neighborhoods, and much more. Our state is plagued by inequality and poverty. And yet, while 88,000 people sleep in shelters every night, New York State is home to Wall Street, a multi-billion-dollar real estate industry, and some of the richest corporations and people in the world. This glaring contrast between rich and poor has never been more obvious.
My name's Jawanza, and yeah, again, thanks for coming. And I should also mention that the president, for me to stand on this stage before you to talk about the experience of the 88,000 people experiencing homelessness in New York State is because just not too long ago, I was one of those people. I spent the better part of a year living in shelters in New York City. I sought refuge in this state because of the expansion of the Affordable Care Act, the expansion of Medicaid. I knew as an HIV positive person and from Texas that I was safe here, that here I could get health care, that here I will be taken care of. So I thank this city for that. But the reality is, not everyone is so lucky. Not everybody has that same level of mobility to get out of these shelters because of these crippling economic inequality and unfairness on our state levels from the government in the city. And I think that Corey is talking about that stuff pretty deeply. Now, what's even more disturbing is that our new president, Donald Trump, he's promised to make all of this worse, right?
He doesn't have any problems.
Just this week, we learned that NYCHA will lose more than $35 million in federal funding, and the federal government is considering a $6 billion cut to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. That's HUD, right? Remember, listen to me again. The federal government is considering cutting $6 billion from HUD. And that means that our state, that our city is going to lose crucial funding. That is the difference between housing and homelessness. That is the difference between warmth and cold. That is the difference between life and death. Right? So, the president's plan also, like I'm saying before, to dismantle the Affordable Care Act will also take away billions more. Without this federal funding, our state must find another way to end the crisis that we are experiencing, that is plaguing our communities and letting people suffer through generations of poverty. So remember, we're losing money from HUD So NYCHA is losing $35 million, so the state is losing billions of dollars. The Affordable Care Act is being threatened, and that means the state again is losing more money. So what are we going to do when we have a crisis where 88,000 people are sleeping on the streets, are sleeping in shelters? We need more money to deal with these issues, right? Well, luckily we're here in New York State, where we have billionaires, millionaires, a multi-billion-dollar real estate industry, and these folks need to pay their fair share. So, why are we outside of Governor Cuomo's office today? Because this office is right over there at 633 3rd Avenue. This is Governor Cuomo's Manhattan office. We are very intentional about being out here right now. We want the governor and his staff and his people to hear us out here, because we are the 88K, right? We are the people. Make no mistake, the people on this stage have experienced homelessness, may be actively experiencing homelessness. The people in this space right now know what it's like to be homeless. And if we don't, we probably work very closely with people experiencing homelessness. And when you have 88,000 people across the state experiencing homelessness, then no one is too far removed from knowing someone very close to them who is experiencing homelessness, right? And even that definition of homelessness is a very specific definition. That's more people, in my opinion. But that's off the chart. You know, but we're out here because Governor Cuomo, right, he bills himself as a progressive governor, right, as a champion for New York progressives. However, the state of crisis that our state is in right now, with 88,000 people being homeless, it doesn't really line up with Governor Cuomo's claim that he is a progressive champion for New Yorkers. Because were he a progressive champion for New Yorkers, would there be a record number of homelessness in this state right now? You know, right? Do you know that right now, 88,000 people homeless is the greatest recorded number of homelessness in New York State's history. And 41% of all those folks became homeless between the years 2011 and 2015 under Governor Cuomo's watch. Doesn't sound very progressive to me. It doesn't sound very progressive to me, does it to you? No. Does it? No. Hell no. But, apparently, just a couple days ago, it was reported that Governor Cuomo is taking key steps towards launching a presidential campaign. If our governor thinks he can be president, then he needs to start by tackling our state's worst issues first. And that's homelessness and economic inequality. Glaring, catastrophic, inappropriate, totally totalitarian damn near economic inequality. This is unfair and it's not right. And before you want to be president of these United States, you need to address these issues in this state, in New York State. No? Right. Issue. But homelessness is nothing more than a symptom or a manifestation of a totally systemic issue, right? So homelessness is what you get when you have economic inequality that is spurred by and informed by racism, classism, sexism, like all of these different phobias and phenomena that show up in our laws. Yeah. Or whenever people like me, or people like you standing here, or people like those 88K, aren't the people that are informing the way that you write your policies. Right? And that's how we get an epidemic of homelessness. So, what do we need exactly? Right, we need housing. But we need our state to fully fund and create 20,000 units of supportive housing. We need to fund the Home Stability Support Plan, to renew and increase funding for civil legal services, and to provide rental assistance to low-income HIV-positive New Yorkers who are living outside of New York City. Do you all think our state has the resources to do this? Is there enough money in this state? In the pockets of billionaires and millionaires, developers, Wall Street, and corporations to help pay for the things we need? You're right. It's simple as that.
I got a question for you all. Do you all think that our state has the resources to do this? Is there enough money in the state, in the pockets of billionaires and millionaire developers, Wall Street corporations, to help pay for these things we need? Of course there's enough. We need progressive tax policies that will generate the revenue needed to end homelessness and much more. Right now, 3 progressive tax policies are being debated in Albany. We need Albany to extend and expand the millionaire's tax, support the mansion tax, and close carry interest loophole. These policies could raise enough revenue for our state to reinvest in our communities. The money raised through these policies, nearly $6 billion, would fund services for the public good and help us weather any storm the Trump administration throws at us. As you can see, I came very patriotic, but I'm just feeling, I'm not feeling united at this point right now. Hopefully. I'm gonna pass this to Jawanza right now.
So, before we call up our speakers who are going to share with us today, we want to sing that song again. We have a band here to help us perform. They're called the Rude Mechanical Orchestra. And
what side are we on? 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 What side are we on, my people? What side are we on? What side are we on, my people? What side are we on? What side are we on, my people? What side are we on? What side are we on, my people? What side are we on? Let's Tani is a housing fighter and she's teaching us how to fight. We gon' fight all day and night till Cuomo gets it right. What side are we on? 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 Jawanza Williams is a housing fighter and he's teaching us how to fight. And we gon' fight all day and night till Cuomo gets it right. What side are we on? What side are we on? What side are we on? What side are we on?
thank you. Thank you to the band. That was cute. I like that. So, we're going to start having our speakers come up and we're going to call people up 2 at a time. So for our first speaker, we're going to have Mark Greenberg from the Interfaith Assembly on Homelessness and Housing, and Jacqueline Rodriguez from Churches United for Faith Housing. Are they here? Oh.
My name is Jacqueline Rodriguez from Churches United for Fair Housing, also known as CUF. I am proud to be here today representing our member churches and the communities across the city. It is the responsibility of the church to stand with those who are in need, especially those of us who are most oppressed because of income, gender, are undocumented or homeless. We at CUF are directly impacted. We're confronted with tenants who face the reality of being homeless or at risk of being homeless daily. We also understand that solidarity is a verb. We are here to take action with you all. It is a shame that New York State has a record high homelessness of over 88,000 people. This can be does their priorities wrong. It's their moral obligation to address homelessness. Our state is the country's financial capital. Wouldn't it be great for all of us if the many families who are trying to make ends meet can have a stable place to live? Is it too much to ask for? Albany can take clear steps to reinvest in New York State, which is included in the platform. Cuomo and state legislature have a real opportunity now, and we hope they take it. We're going to keep fighting. Some of us are putting our bodies on the line today to demand justice for the 88,000 that are homeless.
Make noise, people.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming here. It's such a cold day. You know, right across the street there at 633 3rd Avenue, somewhere up, I think on the 17th floor, is the governor's New York City office. That's why we're here. I'm with the Interfaith Assembly on Homelessness and Housing, and I work with a number of coalitions. We're about 60 congregations, but we work with a number of groups, one of them being the Campaign for New York Housing, which has been out in front of that office for the last 32 Wednesdays, every 9 o'clock Wednesday, because the governor made a promise last year to build 20,000 units of housing with support services. And they put $2 billion in the budget. They've only released $150 million of it. And that money is supposed to build 6,000 units for people who are on the street, in jails, in shelters, and in hospitals. People who need housing and need support services. And he has broken his promise. He has not kept his promise. Now, he's promised that the $1 billion in that $2 billion that's supposed to go for housing with support services, he's putting it back in the budget this year. But we're going to hold him to his promise. We can't count on him anymore. He's broken too many promises. We're going to be back there every Wednesday. This Wednesday after the snow, and next Wednesday, and every Wednesday after that, until the budget is passed and the $950 million is in there for our brothers and sisters who need housing with services. You know, there was a man out there a few months ago who told us that until the age of 50, he was a problem to everybody in his life. He had mental illness. Everybody in his life he was a problem for. He said, finally I went to the hospital and a doctor started talking to me and told me, what you need is medication and you need support services, you need supportive housing. Now, he said he's been fine. His life has been great for the last 10 years. He's an articulate, intelligent, sweet man. There are people out there like him all over the place who need the support to be able to live like full human beings. We all deserve that. Some of us need a little more help at certain times in our life. We're counting on the governor to make good on his promise. And I thank you for being here to help remind him that we are not going to forget what he's promised to do for our homeless brothers and sisters. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, we mentioned earlier something called home stability support. Now, for those of you who know, everyone on public assistance gets something called a shelter allowance, which is supposed to pay for your housing. But that shelter allowance has not been enough to pay for housing for the last 30 years. A single man will get $410 a month to pay for an apartment. It's hard to find an apartment for $410 a month. Home stability support, exactly. Home stability support would raise the shelter allowance to close to the rent levels. It would save hundreds of millions of dollars. It would save tens of thousands of people. The money that's now going into the shelters, into welfare hotels, where the hotel gets $3,500 a month to not even be able to cook in their own room. What a waste. We're sending money to wealthy millionaires instead of putting people in homes that they deserve. This money would take that money out of the shelters and hotels, put it into rental subsidies. People could live full lives. They could get back on their feet. They could get back to work. The kids can go to school. That's what we need to do. You know, for every single unit of supportive housing that someone is placed in, we save $10,000 a year. So it doesn't only save human beings, it saves money. Now, wouldn't you think that the governor would want to save the state money and not waste money, keeping people on their knees, give people a chance to be back on their feet? And that's what we're here for, to get the governor to do the right thing, help our people get into housing, get back on their feet, and contribute, as we all need to do. Thank you all.
No,
88,000. I'm about to introduce two speakers up, Charles Kahn from Strong Economy for All and Dahlia McManus, Working Families Party.
How's everyone doing? It's cold out here, huh? All right. So I'm here. I'm the new deputy director at Working Families Party. Long-time Working Families voter, new staffer. But I'm here to tell you the Working Families Party started with the belief that neither the Democrats nor the Republicans were representing the needs of too many New Yorkers. The fast food worker who had to work 1, 2 jobs and still living in a homeless shelter. That ain't right. The home health care worker who is taking care of our mothers and our fathers but couldn't make enough ends meet to take care of their own kids. Or the union member fighting for themselves and for all our union brothers and sisters. To get to the middle class, we're struggling to stay there. Since the beginning, almost 20 years ago, we have fought for policies that would improve the lives of working people. And we have fought for people to get elected who would represent our interests. But the party's mission now feels more important than ever. We began a political party to show that politics should be rooted in values and principles. We started a political party for all those people who were tired of hearing politicians say things that seem so simple, so obvious, yet never got done.
There you go.
We started a party on the basic premises that our government and politics should be rooted in equity, justice, and compassion. Now you've heard today that there are more men, women, and children sleeping in shelters across our state than ever before. Take a moment and think about it. Children, men, women, and children, more than ever. More than when the economy crashed. More than when it was bad in the 80s. More than ever sleeping in shelters today. In New York, our home state, the Big Apple, home to some of the wealthiest, biggest, most powerful corporations in the world, and the people who work there. This is exactly why the Working Families Party exists. To say no. Join me to say no. That this ain't right. This is not normal. And something can be done. How dare we proclaim ourselves to be a progressive state? To stand up to the fascists in chief when we have 88,000 men, women, and children sleeping in homeless shelters. The solutions are clear. This is what's crazy. We know how to fix this. The policies laid out in Albany Can End Homelessness, that platform, they're clear, they're straightforward, they're broadly accepted, they're written by the people who've been working on this issue for decades. And you know what? They work. And likewise, the tax policies that are called for, they're simple, they're clear, and they're broadly supported. Now here's the kicker. The revenue that's being talked about that would be raised would not just fix homelessness. We would have $6 billion that we could invest in education or in infrastructure and create jobs all across this state. Now sadly, we may need some of that money to resist Trump here in New York, right? Right down at City Hall today, our friends, our allies are protesting cuts to public housing that's just been announced by Trump and the GOP. The Trump budget cuts call for $50 billion more for the military, billions to build a wall between the United States and Mexico, and worst of all, the health care proposals would cut billions from Medicaid. Now take a moment and look around the crowd. Look around, look to your left, look to your right. No one is coming to save us, right? people will have a home or not. This is about what kind of schools our kids are going to go to every day. This is about whether we're going to let Trump trample on us or whether we're going to build our own wall. One that's not about keeping people out, but built of love and compassion that's going to be a force against stopping Trump. So remember, we're not just here talking about tax policy and homeless policies. We're here fighting for the heart and soul of our state. All right, thank you.
Housing is a right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a right. Fight, fight, fight.
Ooh, it's cold. So, New York has never had a lack of resources. It's no more apparent as we stand here amongst high-rise office buildings and multi-million-dollar apartments. What New York does have a lack of is leadership, willpower, and courage. And that's Governor Cuomo's fault. Instead of real investments to end homelessness, we get lip service. But lip service isn't going to stop people from having to sleep in the subways. Lip service is not going to stop 88,000 people from having to find a home at a bus stop. Lip service is not going to keep people warm on the cold nights. We need real action. We need real leadership, real courage, real willpower. And this year, right now, in this budget, we can end homelessness. We could do two really simple things. To end the greed, to end homelessness, to fund education, to take care of New Yorkers. Because we come first in New York. If we close the carriage loophole, right? Right now, hedge fund managers, they pay less taxes than teachers and their secretaries. If we stop that, that makes sense to y'all, right? If we stop that, we could raise $3 billion. Tomorrow, today, we could do that. And if we expand and extend the millionaire's tax, so those people in New York, if you make more than $600,000 a year, a 1% increase, we could raise another $2 billion. There is nothing that pisses me off more than elected officials that say they're with you, but when it comes to the action, they turn their back and they literally and figuratively leave you out in the cold. We can end that today. If Governor Cuomo wants to be president, if Governor Cuomo wants to continue to be governor, he needs to show leadership and we need real action. That's the truth. Thank you.
Cut the crap! 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 Tax the rich! 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 What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? If we don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it, shut it down.
Right, thanks, Lavelle. All right, before I bring up the next two speakers, I wanted to speak a little bit about the legacy and the history of AIDS activism in New York City. Like, HIV and AIDS activists have been at it for 30 years nearly. Like, ACT UP will have a 30-year anniversary on March 30th, which is a big deal. Have been on the forefront of is securing housing not only for HIV positive people, but for all low-income New Yorkers, and we need to give a round of applause for that. And also partnering with other community-based organizations that are committed to democracy, that are committed to economic justice. So the next two speakers that I want to bring up are Darius Gordon from Citizen Action of New York and Eric Sawyer of GMHC.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? So I had a little speech prepared, but I actually just want to speak to everybody from a personal level. So I just checked my phone. It is currently 27 degrees out. Let's think about that for a second. 27 degrees out. That means 88,000 men, women, and children have to survive in this 27-degree weather. They woke up this morning realizing the reality that they live in. And let's think about that. How troubling is that? We're freezing our butts off right now, and all of us have coats, scarves, hats on, gloves on. Imagine those people who don't have those resources. Think about 88,000. And while the governor is in, I'm pretty sure, his cozy, very warm room with his family, he goes to sleep at night knowing that he's in a warm, secure place. But think about the 88,000 mothers and fathers who are currently hugging their children, trying to keep them warm, making sure that they wake up tomorrow. We have a snowstorm coming in the city tomorrow. Think about that. That ain't right. And we have the solutions. We have the solutions. Folks talked about the solutions. And we can not only guarantee resources for the 88,000 homelessness, but we can do more than that. In terms of education, in terms of closing the inequality gap. We are literally living in an area where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. 88,000. Record number for New York City. Record number. Let's think about that. We ain't leaving until we get that fixed. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Sawyer, and I'm proud to be one of the founding members of ACT UP and also a co-founder of Housing Works. But I'm also really proud to be the new Vice President of Public Policy at GMHC, the first AIDS organization created in this world. And we're still here fighting for the rights of people living with HIV and AIDS. I send regards from Kelsey Louis, our new CEO. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but he wanted to let you know that he and GMHC are with you in this fight to create new housing. We're in the process of trying to house and provide stable housing to many of our clients for whom stable housing is one of their biggest problems. There is tons of research done, not just by housing experts, but by public health and medical experts that say that housing is the most important thing for health care. Housing is health care. And study after study show that you will die faster if you're not housed than if you have medical insurance and access to medical care. Think about that. Without a roof over your head, a place to keep you warm, a place to organize your medical appointments, a place to cook food, you die really quickly. And you know, I'm not an expert in the way that some of our other speakers have, and Jawanza and Corey and the last speaker. You know, they're the ones that are living this experience and talking truth to power. But we all know and we're all concerned about trying to do something. We've heard about the 88,000 people. One thing that hasn't been mentioned is the cuts to Ryan White and to HOPA. New York City is losing $24 million this year to its HOPA programs. We need that Governor Cuomo up there on the high floor, nice and warm, to make up that difference. We also need, and we all know about the divide in this country between Republicans and Democrats. Well, we've got a divide in our leadership here in New York State. We've got a governor and a mayor that don't work together. The budget of New York City and the budget of New York State is higher than most of the budgets of countries around the world. Wall Street and all the real estate developers make billions and billions of dollars. Are they contributing it to the housing and health care of New Yorkers? No. That needs to change. Occupy Wall Street talked a lot about the Robin Hood tax. I think we really need to amp up the discussion of the Robin Hood tax again, because we have Wall Street making huge amounts of money in this city, and then they take it and go out and buy luxury cars and fancy apartments. Some of that money's got to come to the people of this city and this state, so that they can have roofs over their heads and meals on their tables and health care. We know about how this orange president wants to build a wall to keep people out of this country, and one of our speakers from the working party talked about that. What we should be talking about building is 4 walls and roofs so poor people and middle-income people have a place to sleep and cook food. I'm not going to go on too long because we're all really cold, and I really thank my colleague before me to bring that point home. Just think about all the people that are going to be outside tonight. And we've got to do something to correct this. And we've got to look at the policies that our governor and our mayor are coming forward. They're talking about creating housing, right? But what have they done so far? They give developers a lot of money and tax cuts to create low-income housing. And what's the income levels for that? $55,000. Middle income, $80,000. They don't have a clue about what most people are living on in this city and in this state. And what we need to do is educate them, get them to wake the fuck up, and get our legislators and our city councils to do their jobs to create affordable housing for the average New Yorker, and to create housing so that poor people can live for free with a roof over their heads, with 4 walls around them, and with access to food and health care. Thank you very much.
Wow, he brought the house down. The next 2 speakers that I'm going to bring up, their companies have also been, allies with us for the fight for the homeless. From Picture the Homeless, Charmel Lucas, and Afia from CVH.
Picture the Homeless, and we're here from Picture the Homeless to support vocal. I am the face of one of the 88,000 homeless. I'm in a couple shelter, and we're here to support pushing for millionaires to be taxed, and also the matching tax. I do know of one millionaire that owns 11% of the shelter system, which people have died in his shelter. Actually, he lives right around the corner there on 57th Street. He owns 7 condominiums in one building. His name is Stuart Podolsky. That's his Podolsky family, and they own 11% of the shelter system. Okay? No, it's not right. And now I've been hearing there's a rumor that Cuomo wants to run for president. How can he run for president? He can't even take care of the people in his own state. That don't make any sense. So basically, we're here to support, push for the taxes to be pushed, and let's get the rich to pay for the poor, and take care of all of our families. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, my goodness. My name is Afia Adamensa. I'm part of Community Voices Heard, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm going to keep it short because it's cold, but see, our hearts are warm, our cause is right, our team is strong, so we're ready for war. Listen, it's real clear Community Voices Heard stands shoulder to shoulder with our brothers and sisters in Vocal, our brothers and sisters in Picture the Homeless, as we demand that Cuomo, as the governor of this here great state, is going to have to deal with us people in regards to homelessness. We're going to demand proper funding for the New York City Housing Authority so that we actually have affordable housing that people can pay for, live in with security and safety in a safe and habitable manner. So we're here, we're going to continue to be here day to day as we organize door to door, floor to floor, building to building, block to block, to let Cuomo know that we got minds like elephants. See, we'll never forget. In 2018, he's going to have to answer a lot of questions unless he ensures that this here 88,000 homeless has housing. A lot of questions will have to be answered about why he did not properly fund the New York City Housing Authority to ensure that people had access to safe and affordable housing. So we're with you. We're ready to fight. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Thank y'all.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? And if we don't get it, 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 Governor, 1%, who do you represent? Governor, 1%. Who do you represent, Governor? Who do you represent, Governor? 1%. Governor, 1%. Governor, 1%.
Okay, next I'm going to be introducing Reverend Emily McNeil from the Labor and Religion Coalition, Larry Cox from Cairo Center for Religion, Rights, and Social Justice.
Hello, fellow fighters. My name is Larry. I'm with the Cairo Center for Religions, Rights, and Social Justice. It's located at Union Theological Seminary, where people spend a lot of time trying to figure out God's will. But you don't need to go to seminary to know God's will. You already know it. God's will is for people to come together and fight for the poor. And to fight until they get their rights. I'm also proud to say I'm part of something called the New Poor People's Campaign, which is a campaign of people all over the country, indeed all over the world, who are fighting poor people, who are fighting for their rights. The first Poor People's Campaign was started by Dr. Martin Luther King in 1968. And he started it because he knew what we know, which is there is no more serious violation of human rights anywhere in the world than to deny a person their right to a house. No. And he knew that if you deny housing to one person, it's immoral. But if you deny housing to 88,000 people, it's a crime. It's a crime against humanity. And we are now seeing 50 years after that first Poor People's Campaign that we need a new Poor People's Campaign more than ever. And that's what we're fighting for. And that's what we're fighting here today in New York
state. And we're fighting like Dr. King because we follow someone who said his mission was to bring good news to the poor. Jesus said good news to the poor. So I want to just end by giving some good news to the poor. And the first good news is that we may not have Mario Cuomo on our side, or Andrew Cuomo on our side, rather. Sorry, I'm a little old. Andrew Cuomo on our side. But the good news is that we have God on our side, and God is even more powerful than Andrew Cuomo and all the politicians in Albany. And the second good news is that we are going to fight for the 88,000, for the millions all over this country who don't have homes, who don't have their rights, and we're going to continue to fight until we win, So you here, you are the good news for the poor, and the good news is we're going to win.
Amen. Can I get an amen for Larry? My name is Emily McNeil, and I'm with the Labor Religion Coalition of New York State, and very happy to be here with you all today. I'm here representing upstate New York. I grew up in Rochester and live now in Albany, and I want us to remember today that it is not only folks here in New York City who are homeless, but folks all around the state, from Buffalo to Albany to Schenectady to Binghamton, and we have to be united to demand that in the wealthiest state in history, practically, that everybody should have the right to a house. Larry talked about Dr. King, and almost exactly 50 years ago, Dr. King gave a speech up at near Union Theological Seminary, and he talked about a story that a lot of us who come from a Christian background are familiar with, the story of the Good Samaritan. And Jesus is talking about why it's important for us as a moral necessity to care for those who are in need. But Dr. King said that about that story, he said that eventually we have to come to understand that true compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It requires us to question the edifice of society that produces beggars. It's about a structural change, and that's what we're talking about here in New York. When we have over 440,000 millionaires in our state and over 3 million people living in poverty. That is not right. And we have to demand more. 88,000 homeless New Yorkers is 88,000 more than we should tolerate. Because we have the resources, we need to end this program now, end this problem now. So many of us are about to put our bodies on the line now to say enough is enough, and if we don't get it, we're going to shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. Shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. All right. Shut it down. 88,000. 88,000. 88,000. We didn't leave it. 88,000. We didn't leave it. 88,000. We didn't leave it. 88,000. Leave it. Thank you.
Make a long story short, we are just finished being tired. We're tired of being told to wait. Excuse me, I'm a little cold. But I'm going to pass the mic over to Jawanza. I'm going to let him close the thing out.
So first, we're not totally done here. We've heard from our speakers, and I deeply appreciate all of them. But right now, what's about to happen is that faith leaders, directors of community-based organizations that serve homeless people, people that themselves may have been formerly homeless, are right now about to block this street, 3rd Avenue, to call attention to the governor, to remind him that we are none waiting. Okay? We're not going to allow you to have 88,000 people homeless in this state and continue to perpetuate ideas and policies that don't address the real issue. So while they do that, the band is going to play and we're going to sing our song together that we've been singing all day. Okay?
disorderly conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. You are ordered to leave the roadway and utilize the available sidewalk. If you do so voluntarily, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to utilize the sidewalk, you will be placed under arrest and charged with disorderly conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. You are ordered to leave the roadway and utilize the available sidewalk. If you do so voluntarily, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to utilize the sidewalk, you will be placed under arrest and charged with disorderly conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. You are ordered to leave the roadway and utilize the available sidewalk. If you do so voluntarily, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to utilize the sidewalk, you will be placed under arrest and charged with disorderly conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. You are ordered to leave the roadway and utilize the available sidewalk. If you do so voluntarily, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to utilize the sidewalk, you will be placed under arrest and charged with disorderly conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully in the roadway and obstructing vehicular traffic. You are ordered to leave the roadway.
On the sidewalk, please, guys. Thank you.
If you do so voluntarily,